You could save $1,000 a month, every month, for the next 30 years. Do the math, and that's $360,000 set aside. It feels like a fortune, and by the time you actually get there, it might barely cover a decade of retirement. That's the strange part. You did everything they told you to do. You skipped the vacations, you packed your lunch, you watched the account balance climb, and somehow the finish line kept sliding away from you. So how can spending less and saving more still leave you short? How can being responsible with money still leave you not rich? Here's the simple, uncomfortable version. Saving protects your money. It doesn't grow it. And in an economy built the way ours is, standing still is the same as moving backward. Today, we follow the money, and we find out why the smartest saver in the room can still lose the game. Let's start with the thing nobody feels happening in real time. Inflation? In plain terms, inflation just means the same dollar buys a little less each year. The Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks this with something called the Consumer Price Index, a giant basket of the stuff Americans actually buy, from groceries to rent to gas. When that basket gets more expensive, your dollar shrinks. For most of recent history, that shrink has run somewhere around 2 to 3% a year. That sounds tiny. It isn't. In 2022, that number spiked to roughly 9%, the highest in about 4 decades. And suddenly, everyone felt it at the pump and the checkout line at once. Here's why that matters for the money in your savings account. If prices rise 3% this year, and your money is just sitting there, then a year from now, that same pile buys 3% less. You didn't spend a dime. You still got poorer. Quietly, automatically. So the first question is obvious. Isn't that what the interest on my savings account is for? Let's look at what that account is actually paying you. According to FDIC data, the national average interest rate on a standard savings account has, for years, hovered down near a fraction of 1%. By most recent estimates, it sits well under 1%. Your bank calls this your APY, your annual percentage yield, which is just a fancy label for how much they pay you to keep your money there. Now put those two numbers next to each other. Inflation running 2 to 3%. Your savings account paying you a fraction of 1%. That gap has a name in finance. It's called your real return, meaning what you actually earned after inflation eats its share. And in a normal savings account, that real return is usually negative. Read that again. The money you work to save is designed to lose value while it sits in the exact place they told you was safe. So, where does that lost value actually go? It doesn't vanish. Follow it. When you deposit money, the bank doesn't lock it in a vault and guard it. It lends most of it back out as mortgages, car loans, credit cards, at rates far higher than the fraction of a percent it's paying you. The spread between what they pay you and what they charge everyone else, that's their profit. You are, in the most literal sense, funding the machine. And it's paying you almost nothing for the privilege. So, if saving alone quietly loses, what actually wins? This is where the second engine comes in, the one most people never turn on. Compound interest just means your money earns money. And then that new money starts earning money too. It stacks on itself. There's a line often credited to Albert Einstein, that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He almost certainly never said it, but whoever did was right about the math. Here's the difference in one clean example. Say you have $10,000. Leave it in a savings account at 0.5% for 30 years, and by the end you've got a little under $12,000. 3 decades of waiting, and you've added maybe $2,000, barely enough to notice. Now take that same $10,000 and put it to work in the broad stock market instead. Historically, the S&P 500, which is basically a bundle of 500 of America's largest public companies, has returned something in the neighborhood of 10% a year on average before inflation. Strip out inflation, and most estimates land closer to 7% in real terms. Let me be clear about that number. It's a long-run historical average. It's rounded, and it is absolutely not a promise. Some years the market drops hard, but over 30 years at around 7%, that same $10,000 grows to somewhere near $76,000. Same money, same 30 years. One version limps to $12,000. The other climbs past $76,000. The only difference is whether your money had a job or whether it just sat in a chair. That's the whole secret the savers miss. Saving is you adding dollars one at a time, by hand. Compounding is those dollars going out and hiring more dollars while you sleep. One is addition, the other is multiplication. And over a lifetime, multiplication wins so completely it isn't close. Look at how the wealthy actually behave. And you'll see they understand this in their bones. Warren Buffett is worth tens of billions of dollars. And by most accounts, the overwhelming majority of that fortune was built after his 60s. He didn't get richer because he suddenly worked harder in his 70s. He got richer because compounding had been running for decades and finally hit the steep part of the curve. Time did the heavy lifting. His job was mostly to not interrupt it. And that's the piece. Regular people get backward. We treat saving as the finish line. The wealthy treat it as the starting block. Now, before this turns into cheerleading, let's be honest about the other side, because that's the part the get-rich-quick crowd skips. Investing is not free money, and it is not safe the way a savings account is safe. The market goes down, sometimes brutally, sometimes for years. Money you might need next month has no business in stocks because you could be forced to sell at the worst possible moment. This is exactly why saving still matters. An emergency fund, cash you can grab instantly, is your shock absorber. Most financial planners suggest something like 3 to 6 months of expenses kept safe and boring, so a job loss or a busted transmission doesn't wreck you. That money is supposed to sit still. Its job is to be there, not to grow. And a bank account is federally insured by the FDIC up to $250,000 per depositor per bank, which is real protection a brokerage account doesn't give you. So this isn't saving versus investing. It's understanding that they do two completely different jobs. And nothing here is a recommendation to buy or sell anything. What you do with your own money depends on your situation, your timeline, and honestly deserves either your own research or a real professional. So put the whole picture together. Your emergency fund is defense. It keeps a bad month from becoming a catastrophe. Investing is a fence. It's the only part of the system actually designed to outrun inflation over the long haul. The mistake most people make isn't saving too little. It's leaving everything on defense forever and wondering why they never pull ahead. There's even a rough rule of thumb that shows why this matters. It's called the 4% rule, and it comes out of a study by 3 professors at Trinity University back in the 90s. The rough idea is that a well-invested nest egg can support you pulling out around 4% a year without running dry. Notice the assumption baked in. It assumes your money is invested and growing, not sitting in cash slowly melting. A pile of idle savings doesn't follow that rule. It just gets smaller. Every year you touch it. Here's the mental model to walk away with. Every dollar you own can either be a worker or a couch potato. In a savings account, most of them are on the couch, and inflation is quietly picking their pockets. Give those dollars a job, and let compounding run long enough, and time stops working against you and starts working for you. That flip is the entire difference between a saver who stays stuck and a saver who eventually gets free. So let's go back to where we started. You could save $1,000 a month for 30 years. But if that money just sits there, you're not building a fortune. You're slowly watching one shrink. Saving is how you keep your money. Investing is how you make it grow. Learn the difference and you stop working for your money and finally get your money working for you.